Over the last 2 years, we have seen quite a dramatic increase in patients who present with a structural failure of their stent in the upper GI tract, notably the esophagus, stomach, and duodenum, which has been brought on by the dramatic increase in survival of patients, even with disseminated cancer, leading to the fact that they regularly start to outlive their devices. When I say structural failure, the metal that the stents are made of undergoes corrosive failure to the extent that the stents break and fall apart. A few years ago, it used to be a very rare event. We now do see this regularly, also because we now look out for them. And we probably have at least 1 or 2 stent procedures a week where we have to revise a stent, exchange it, and replace it because the old one is no longer functioning. The problem is still very much under-recognized. Part of that is that the operators often do not see these patients again because they get referred to the regional cancer center for follow-up. I work in one of those, and therefore we see other people's follow-up. The superalloy being used for the construction of these stents has some fantastic properties, but unfortunately it is quite susceptible to corrosive failure from exposure to hydrochloric acid from the stomach. And the longer this goes on, the more the alloy gets destroyed, leading to wire fractures and the stent losing its structural integrity. Traditionally, the follow-up is provided by the oncologist who has referred the patient, and the inserting operator, be that an endoscopist or radiologist, often only took a technician's role. However, these are the people who have the relevant expertise and should be involved in the follow-up. The changes can be picked up quite early on diagnostic imaging, notably on CT, but unfortunately, unless somebody is involved who's looking for these, it only manifests itself when the patient has recurrent problems swallowing, at which point the damage is quite significant to the stent. What needs to be done is that the people who understand the stent keep an eye out for its function in the long term. Interventional radiologists need to be aware of the problem, they need to be aware of the changes that the stents undergo in imaging, and they need to be aware that these issues need fixing. These stents need to be replaced. I believe the person best placed to follow up these stents is an interventional radiologist. They understand the clinical problem, they understand the stents, and they have access to the imaging that shows the changes the earliest. However, interventional radiologists need to be given the time in their job plan so they can take on this clinical role and deliver the clinical follow-up that these patients deserve. The exact scientific process is poorly understood as yet. We at the Christie are leading research projects into the materials failure with 2 universities in Manchester and in Prague. And we've just been lucky enough to appoint PhD students to examine this formally. It is a small niche market, funding is difficult to get hold of, and we've been very lucky to create an umbrella with Manova Medical Foundation, which is a community interest company, and that's been able to fundraise in order to support these projects.